Good evening, YouTube, and welcome back to Paisano's Music and Vinyl Talk. I am your host, as always, Paisano. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I hope you enjoy our little bebop down rocks past through my album collection, my vinyl collection. And if you're returning and not yet subscribed, please do. Make Paisano a happy Paisano and subscribe. Smash it, as they say. Smash the subscribe button. Smash the crap out of it. I'd appreciate it very much. Tonight, we're going to talk about Deep Purple and a live album released in 1976 detailing their European tour of 1975, and it's called Made in Europe. And this is kind of a poor attempt to recreate Made in Japan, which came out in 1972 and is considered one of the greatest live albums of all time. This is not considered one of the greatest live albums of all time, although it's pretty good. There were some lineup changes that came about shortly before this album came out in 1974. Singer Ian Gillan left and was replaced with David Coverdale, and bassist Roger Glover had left and was replaced by what's his name there? Glenn Hughes, who was a bass player and good backup vocalist. They released a studio album called Burn in 1974. That was an outstanding album. I'll be reviewing that at some point. I do own it on vinyl. And Stormbringer followed Burn. And this live album contains songs strictly from those two albums, nothing that came previously, with the Ian Gillan, Roger Glover days. The nucleus of Ritchie Blackmore on guitar, John Lord on organ, and Ian Pace on drums remained the same. Although that would change. This was Ritchie Blackmore's final album with Deep Purple. This was actually released after he left and the group broke up. That they did reform with Tommy Bolin taking over guitar duties for Ritchie Blackmore. And but for all intents and purposes, Deep Purple was finished for a while until 1984, when the Mark II version reunited for Perfect Strangers, which I reviewed earlier in my channel. If you haven't seen it, please go back and check it out. But this one, it only has 5 songs on it. One is real long. One is like 16 minutes long. But it's a good 38, 40-minute album. They really stretch out on a couple of these. And it was a good band, although I prefer the Mark II lineup. This would be considered the Mark III lineup. I'm very partial to the Mark II lineup with Ian Gillan. I think he's a better vocalist than David Coverdale. I like what David Coverdale did with Whitesnake. He made several fine albums with them. And then had a pretty successful career through the rest of the 80s and the middle part of the 90s. I'm not sure what he's doing these days, if he's still performing or not. But we know that John Lord unfortunately passed away in the last few years. Excuse me. But let's go over the track list, and Burn opens up the album, and that's a good way to start a show. It was the title track of the Burn album that came out in 1974. Probably the best song that this version of Deep Purple ever did. Next up is Mistreated, Lady Double Dealer, You Fool No One, and Stormbringer. 5 songs. These songs came from concerts in Austria, Germany, and Paris, France. The length of the album is 45 minutes. I didn't think it was that long. It was an enjoyable listen. The album played very well. I probably bought it. Well, I know I bought it in the mid-'80s. Probably bought it at Quincy Records in Quincy, Massachusetts, if I had to guess. They had a much more extensive hard rock and heavy metal section than Strawberries down the South Shore Plaza. And who produced this? I think it was Martin Birch. Yeah, Martin Birch with Deep Purple. Martin Birch produced a lot of Deep Purple albums. Mixed by Ian Pace, the drummer in Martin Birch. They used the Rolling Stones mobile truck for these dates. But yeah, when this album came out, Ritchie Blackmore was already gone. And for all intents and purposes, Deep Purple was finished. It was at least until 1984. And they had kind of a resurgence. Released a couple of very fine albums in the mid-'80s, mid to late '80s. I made a very good live album, too, that I have on cassette. And who knows, down the road, after I run through all the vinyl, I'll probably do the CDs and cassettes. Why not? Be Paisano's Music Talk. Paisano's Music and Cassette Talk. Paisano's Music and CD Talk. The possibilities are endless. Let's take a look at the vinyl. This came out on Warner Brothers in conjunction with Parlophone. Classic Warner Brothers label with the P for Parlophone there. Parlophone released it initially, I believe. Take a look at the album cover. Glenn Hughes was a fine bassist and a fine backup singer. It's a good addition to the band, but, you know, like I said, I'm partial to that Mark II lineup with Roger Glover and Ian Gillan. A bit of trouble squeezing this puppy back in. Get in there. There's a shot of the band on stage. Looks like a very mild-mannered European audience. If that was in the U.S., pretty much everybody be on their seat going bananas. And on the back cover, the individual members of the band as they appeared in 1975. Ritchie Blackmore front and center. Alright, that's about it for this one, folks. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. What will Paisano dig up next week? Tune in. Find out. Thank you, and good night, YouTube.